It's like an old horror movie, The Winter That Wouldn't Die. Now still another major snowstorm is hitting the country this week.
First, it dumped snow on the states in the Middle America. Now it's heading to the Northeast, the same region that was battered by Superstorm Sandy just last fall. Ephraim Graham has the story.
The remnants of Sandy are still clearly visible, but residents from the Jersey coastline to eastern Long Island just can't catch a break.
We're in the process of rebuilding. I have all construction material all over the place. I had to put it up on higher ground. I think it's going to flood again.
Forecasters predict the winter storm will move slowly through those areas before finally pushing towards New England later today. Virginia and North Carolina got the brunt of the storm Wednesday.
It's the heaviest wet snow I've ever seen in my life, and I grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania, so I can tell you, I'm used to this.
Snow piled up on roads, making travel nearly impossible. There were so many accidents throughout the state, Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell declared a state of emergency.
The National Guard has been authorized to call up to 200 people. They've got 100 that have been mobilized at this point. I'll be reporting this afternoon, and they'll be involved in everything from traffic control missions to debris removal.
North Carolina roads were also a nightmare.
He hit us about 2 times in the front, and then he slammed into the side of us and then started pushing us down the embankment.
In the nation's capital, as much as 10 inches was forecast, but the snow there quickly turned to rain in warmer than expected temperatures. Even with no snow sticking, much of Washington was shut down. And ironically, that included a hearing House Republicans had called to examine global warming. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Just think of that. We shut down a hearing on global warming because of a snowstorm. Isn't that interesting? Well, Congress didn't get the chance to talk about global warming, but one senator did take the floor for an unusually long time to make a protest, like that Jimmy Stewart movie of ancient history. And Lee Webb has that story from the CBN newsroom. Lee.
That's right, Pat. A rare sight in the U.S. Senate Wednesday. Kentucky Republican Rand Paul tied up the Senate for 13 hours as he filibustered a vote on the president's pick to head the CIA. The old-fashioned filibuster, just like in the movie, allows a Senate member to keep the body from holding the floor as long as he can keep speaking. Rand Paul was protesting U.S. policy regarding the use of unmanned drones. He wants written assurance they will not be used to kill American terror suspects in the United States. Paul ended his talk at 1 o'clock in the morning. He managed to delay the vote, but Brennan is expected to be confirmed today. Well, North Korea is threatening to launch a nuclear attack against the U.S. The warning comes just hours before the United Nations Security Council is scheduled to vote on a new round of sanctions against the outlaw regime. A North Korean spokesman says Washington is trying to start a nuclear war and pledged to exercise its right to make a preemptive strike. Overheated rhetoric from Pyongyang is common, but there's been a lot more of it lately. North Korea is angry over the threat of sanctions and upcoming joint American-South Korean military exercises. Pat, what do you make of this latest threat?
Well, they're crazy. That's what I make of it. There's a book I read called The Aquarium of Pyongyang, and it detailed the horror stories of a family that was put into one of their detention camps. It is beyond belief what they do to their own people. This is a dictatorship. This man's father, who is now retired or whatever, he died, whatever happened to him, he liked European prostitutes. He liked fine wine. He liked all these luxuries, and he spent lavishly on himself while the people were starving, desperately poor. That country, the people have suffered unimaginable horrors at the hands of that family, and the time has come that somebody needs to get rid of them. And I don't know. South Korea is playing a couple of games. They don't want to take them on. The trouble is, Seoul is right next to the border of North Korea. The North Koreans have got all kinds of army, artillery units, etc. And they will just blow the daylights out of Seoul if anything happens, and the South Koreans are afraid of that. But somebody that says they're going to have a preemptive nuclear strike against America, the time has come that we may have to take action on that. I mean, it's not just enough to say, well, these are just idle words. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Their words can hurt if they're backed up by nuclear bombs. Lee?
Pat, the Obama administration's decision to release $250 million in foreign aid to Egypt is drawing fire from some members of Congress. They cite President Mohamed Morsi's expansion of power and his close ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. Secretary of State John Kerry says the aid would be used to provide economic assistance. But Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert is concerned the money will be used to kill Israelis and Americans.
When we give jets and tanks to a country led by people who want Israel gone and who think that America is a great Satan, it's not a good idea.
Gohmert is urging others in Congress to override the administration when it, quote, throws allies like Israel under the bus. 3 Republican congressmen have introduced a measure called the Health Care Conscience Rights Act. It's designed to protect the rights of pro-life employers, insurers, and medical workers. The idea is to give them the right to go to court if they are forced to take part in procedures that violate their religious or moral beliefs. It would give greater protections to nurses like Kathy Cinzón de Carlo. She says she was forced to take part in an abortion in 2009, even though the hospital was aware of her objections as a practicing Roman Catholic. De Carlo says she still has nightmares from the procedure 4 years later.
I feel strongly about caring for the sick and giving life and being true to my calling as a nurse. And to be forced to do this was anathema. It's everything that you thought was not in America.
The measure hasn't been taken up by the full House yet. The religious freedom of Christian broadcasters is at risk. The president of the National Religious Broadcasters, Dr. Frank Wright, made that bold statement at the group's annual convention in Nashville. He urged members to unite to defend their right to spread the gospel. He warned biblical teachings are being dubbed hate speech, and there's growing potential for lawsuits against Christian organizations that refuse to hire non-believers. Wright told leaders restrictions on religious freedom anywhere are threats to religious freedom everywhere. And Christians may be forced to practice civil disobedience soon. Southern Baptist leader Richard Land and NRB board member Janet Parshall cited same-sex marriage and President Obama's birth control mandate. Land said those issues are non-negotiable, even at the cost of paying fines and going to jail. Janet Parshall said Christians may have to decide whether to, quote, bow our knee to government or to God. Well, Starbucks is not going along with New York City's ban on large sugary drinks, at least not right away. The company says it's waiting on the legal challenges to the regulation. Starbucks is not sure how it would apply to its drinks. But businesses and food suppliers have been getting ready for the soda ban. It's part of Mayor Michael Bloomberg's efforts to fight obesity by banning sugary drinks over 16 ounces. Many businesses worry the new law will hurt their bottom line and force restaurants to purchase new glassware and reprint menus to accommodate the ban.
These are all gone. This one becomes the small, and then we'll add a 16-ounce will be the large.
It is very, very expensive, from the printing, from the glassware, to the server tips. Everything's a trickle down when you make a decision like that.
I think we're looking at $20,000 to $30,000 less per year.
The ban goes into effect next week, and establishments will have a 3-month grace period to comply. The fine is $200 per sale. Pat?
It may be unconstitutional. I'm all for keeping people from killing themselves, but sooner or later you've got to let them have that privilege. But I think the worst killing is to pay $5 for a cup of coffee. Have you ever, do you frequent
some of those
Starbucks?
Coffee chains? Every now and then, but to be honest with you, I'm too cheap to. You know, $5 can go
we
a
all,
long way.
I mean, I can't stand it. I mean, people are hurting for money and they blow $5 on something other latte.
Agree. I'm not about to argue with you on that one.
Oh,
I agree.
I know you're not. Okay.
The name of Jesus Christ is no longer allowed at city council meetings in the town of Longview, Washington. Area ministers there are typically invited to pray before council meetings, but the Daily News reports the mayor has now advised them not to use Jesus' name in those prayers because it could expose the city to lawsuits. The pastors have responded. They say if ministers cannot speak the name Jesus Christ, they will no longer provide those invocations. At least one atheist resident had complained about the prayers. A federal judge has overturned Idaho's ban on abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. He ruled the law placed an undue burden on a woman's right to have an abortion. The ban was based on the belief that a fetus is able to feel pain after 20 weeks of pregnancy. Idaho was one of 7 states to adopt a fetal pain law in 2011. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.